Welcome to Beyond Hindsight, where looking back helps us think forward. This is a space for reflection, perspective, and lived experience. A place where personal stories, current events, and past moments are examined for the deeper lessons they carry about life, leadership, culture, and identity. If you have a story, a perspective, or a topic you believe deserves to be explored, or if you're interested in being part of a conversation, you can reach me at beyondhindsight.media@gmail.com. I appreciate all your submissions. For now, though, let us begin with today's topic. As a member of Generation Y, I've been blessed by the large strides my parents, along with their baby boomer peers, have taken. The economy boomed, education kept on improving, and living conditions were as comfortable as they had ever been. This has been the breeding ground for the society that we are living in. Prosperity has peaked. History has taught us, however, that after every boom, there inevitably comes a crash. Does it loom on the horizon already? Has the success of our parents made us weak and codependent on our surroundings? I have been preoccupied with these questions the past few days. Let me elaborate why. A short while ago, I was invited to an exclusive event with the President of Switzerland's Federal Council, Mr. Guy Parmelin, and the Association of the Swiss Youth Parliaments. The goal of this event was to enable dialogue between generations and further the political accord between the two. It was conceptualized as follows. Out of hundreds of submissions from members of the association, a select few individuals were chosen to pose direct questions to President Parmelin. He was then given the opportunity to respond both from his perspective and the one of the Federal Council as a whole. It was a very fruitful event with lots of opportunities for networking and getting in touch with the political interested amongst the generations Z and Alpha. Now to the concerning part of the event. The contents of the questions that were asked. Across the board, they were fueled by an attitude of demand and privilege. A short summary of what has been asked of the President in a variety of ways. Let me give you a short summary of what has been asked of the President. He was not only asked to significantly lower the bar for admissions to higher education so that everyone may pass the requirements, but also made responsible for motivating the youth to go vote. Both demands deeply concern me regarding the mindset of the generations that follow mine. I would like to initially engage with the first argument, though. Is it really in the responsibility of the Department of Education to enable every single interested individual to enter higher education? For those that are not in the know, Switzerland has a three-pronged educational system. After middle school, individuals may choose to do an apprenticeship, enter high school to attain a diploma called maturity in order to join a university, or add vocational maturity after their apprenticeship to enter a technical university. In this system, there exists a possibility for each and everyone, irrespective of their individual talents or interests, to find an educational or professional avenue they may go down. It's because of these diverse opportunities that it struck me as outrageous to demand that federal politics encroach on the educational system's innate modes of filtration to select who is allowed to access which level of schooling. Higher education cannot be made accessible to everyone. If this were the case, its level of quality would not only be rendered questionable, but ultimately diminished. Higher levels of education should stay reserved to individuals with higher levels of performance, That this is obviously not the logical conclusion for the younger generations, according to the posed questions, is concerning and indicative of a deeper issue. Nowadays, it seems that a general position of privilege has been assumed by our youths. From their perspective, they deserve higher education, and the road that leads to this goal may not impede in their private life or their leisure. Success needs to be delivered to them without any need for effort or struggle in the pursuit of which. A ludicrous notion in the face of the struggle that our ancestors had to face in order for them to not only succeed, but also to simply persevere and survive. How come that this notion has become widespread in this manner? Today's youth has simply been cradled too much. It has become the norm that children's and juveniles' wants and needs are at the forefront of their guardians. Every desire gets fulfilled, every demand adhered to, every negation of an order accepted without insistence. This attitude of privilege has been cultivated. Switzerland as a whole is struggling with its increasing academization, and this is but a further piece of evidence. Youths nowadays deem themselves deserving of receiving higher education because nearly everyone strives towards it. That we face a growing lack of homegrown workers in non-academic fields is a direct consequence of this. As a result of this ever-present shift towards higher education, the workforce as a whole has been depleted. It is of no use to anyone when individuals that lack the educational performance to further studies force themselves with the system to struggle on when Switzerland offers countless opportunities through apprenticeships. This not only benefits the individual, but the system as a whole. It is therefore highly concerning to me that the ideation of implicating the government in making higher education even easier and spreading to even more people is not only present, but so widespread that it finds its way into events with the President of the Federal Council. It is not the symptom of a misguided individual, but of a systemic issue. If anything, the government and politics need to substantially rethink how they can improve the attractiveness of apprenticeships. It is not higher education that lacks people, it's the exact opposite. Unfortunately, nobody is taking up the cause for their political agenda. Countless firms cannot fill their apprenticeship positions, but their cries do not reach the ears of law and policymakers. As previously stated, history repeats itself, and I fret that we will need to go through a crash to rebuild the mentality that we used to have. Education is not the only field that faces issues in its political agenda, though. As introduced above, President Barmelin was also confronted with accusations by different youths that the Federal Council is not active enough in their rallying of young voters. This argument has been fueled by the results of votes in the past few years. Numerous policy changes, initiatives, and referenda have been accepted by the people that directly benefit seniors or older generations. As an example, it has been accepted that pensions will be paid in an additional time each year without any securing of additional funds for these payments. To this day, it is unclear where from or how the money will flow, which will directly negatively impact younger generations in the present and the future. It is true that votes almost always go in favor of older generations. What is the cause for this, though? It is not that the government does not want younger people to vote. They do. It is simply that people under the age of 40 do not vote for whatever reason. Innumerable Swiss francs have been spent on the promotion of voting. Campaigns, events, social media, new platforms, different layouts for voting materials. nothing bore fruit. No matter what has been tried, younger people obviously cannot be motivated to cast their ballot. It is therefore understandable that the money allocated to such efforts will not or is not being increased. It unfortunately is a bottomless hole. As top-down measures do not yield any effective results, only bottom-up, peer-driven initiatives may potentially lead to an increased voting amongst the younger members of our society. And this is much needed. We are running face first into a gerontocracy without being in a similar demographic situation to Japan and Korea that already are confronted with this very issue. In my opinion, it is one of the largest blessings on this earth to be able to actively participate and shape the politics of your country. That Switzerland is constituted as a direct democracy is a gift and not a burden. Unfortunately, too many young people do not realize this and consequently let this gift slip away from them. The young politically active people are frustrated that their peers do not engage with voting on their level. But instead of complaining to President Parmelin, they should rather conceptualize and execute ground-level campaigns and operations to further this cause amongst their peers. Through grapevine communications, they can and will spread eventually if done right. To be frank, the strategies that were previously employed by the government were not always offered in the manner that is digestible to their target audience. The more important it becomes that the people behind these measures are actually familiar or even part of the target audience. Their voice must be heard through the material for it to be impactful. Both of these cases unfortunately underline the attitude and position of today's youth. They are receivers. Instead of tucking their chin and working hard for the goals they have in mind, with all the negative consequences and invested resources this process requires, they rely on being handed whatever they deserve. They want to receive what they wish for. This is a position of helpless and static dependence. We have strayed far off the established recipe for success that our parents and their parents have practiced for generations. It truly seems that the flow of time repeats itself once more. Hardship shapes strong generations that produce mentality. Their offspring then create prosperity through this mentality, which then leads to complacency in the next generation. And this then unfortunately sees the next generation being rendered privileged and dependent. How do we get out of this, though? If there were a clear recipe for success, we certainly would have found it already. It all goes back to history going in circles. Most probably, there needs to come a new time of hardship and struggle that breeds the mentality which shaped our societies so positively in years past. It is up in the air, however, when this point in time will come. At the moment, we are still profiting a lot from the impact of the baby boomer generation, but their retirement is just around the corner. Generation X carries the large load on its shoulders for a while longer, but there will come a time when we Gen Yers and our subsequent younger peers need to contribute in the same manner. We are navigating perilous waters in the coming decades, and our dependence on our superiors, be it the government, politics, or even our parent generations, will most definitely accelerate society's decline. The time for us to straighten our backs, grab the bull by its horns, and work for our own prosperity and future has come. Not everyone wants to or is made to be at the forefront of building this new mentality of autonomy and strength. The desire to shape one's own life without relying on higher powers. But those that have these qualities are irreplaceable for the future of our society. Let us hope that they will succeed in inspiring their peers. There needs to be a spark in order to ignite the fire of change. Thank you for spending this time with me. If these reflections resonate with you, you're welcome to subscribe and join me for future conversations. Until next time, think carefully, look deeply, and go beyond hindsight.